Somewhere right now, there is a person who has the same 24 hours you have, the same number of responsibilities, possibly more, and their life looks nothing like yours. Their home is clean without a cleaning day. Their desk is clear without a clearing session. Their mornings are calm without a meditation practice. Their weeks feel manageable without a productivity app. They are not smarter than you. They are not more disciplined than you. They do not have more free time than you. They have 10 habits that you do not. And the reason those habits are rare is not because they are difficult. It is because they are invisible. Nobody teaches them. Nobody talks about them. Nobody films a montage about the person who puts their keys in the same bowl every night. There is no viral content about the 30-second habit that prevents 3 hours of weekend chaos. These habits are boring. They are quiet. They are structurally elegant and visually unremarkable. And they are the entire reason some people seem to glide through life while the rest of us feel like we are constantly putting out fires we accidentally started the night before. I know this because I was on the wrong side of this divide for years. I was the person who spent every Sunday afternoon in a frantic cleaning session because the week had buried my apartment under layers of gradual neglect. I was the person who woke up every morning without a plan and spent the first hour reactive, checking my phone, answering whatever was loudest, letting the day happen to me instead of happening to it. I was busy, always busy, but productive, rarely. Organized, never for more than 10 days in a row. And every time I tried to fix it, I reached for the wrong tool. A new planner, a new app, a new routine with 12 steps and a wake-up time that required an alarm I would snooze through anyway. What changed was not a tool, it was a set of behaviors so small that most people dismiss them before they even try. 10 habits that together produce a level of daily organization that genuinely puts you ahead of nearly everyone around you. Not because they are extreme, because almost nobody does them consistently. And consistency, not intensity, is the actual currency of organization. Think about it this way. Someone who cleans their entire apartment for 4 hours every Saturday is putting in 20 hours of organization effort per month. Someone who does a 15-minute evening reset every day is putting in 7.5 hours per month, less than half the time. But the second person's home is always clean. The first person's home is clean on Saturday evening and progressively deteriorating by Wednesday. Same task. Same goal. Completely different experience of living. Because the second person distributed the effort across the month in small, consistent doses instead of concentrating it in exhausting weekend marathons. That distribution is the key insight behind every habit in this video. Small, daily, consistent action beats large, periodic, intense effort. Every single time, in every single domain, without exception. If you take systems seriously, subscribe. This channel does not do motivation. It builds architecture for people who want to stop managing chaos and start preventing it. Subscribe so the next blueprint reaches you. Here are the 10 habits. I am going to give you each one with enough specificity that you can implement it tonight, not next week, tonight. Habit 1, the nightly 3. Every evening, before anything else in your wind down, write 3 things on a piece of paper, not in an app, on paper. These 3 things are the single most important task for tomorrow, one thing you are eliminating or saying no to tomorrow, and 1 sentence about how today went. That is it. 3 lines, 30 seconds, done. The first line, the priority, eliminates the most damaging habit in modern life, waking up without a direction and letting the loudest input dictate your morning. When you decide your priority the night before, you are making that decision with a rested, reflective version of your brain instead of the groggy, reactive version that shows up at 6 a.m. The decision quality is higher and the cognitive cost is 0 because by morning, the decision is already made. There is nothing to figure out. There is only action. The second line, the elimination, is the one most people will skip and the one that matters most over time. Most people live in a state of continuous addition. They add tasks, commitments, subscriptions, obligations, but they almost never subtract. The nightly elimination forces a daily practice of subtraction. What am I not doing tomorrow? What meeting is not worth my time? What commitment can I decline? What task has been on my list for weeks and is clearly never going to happen? 1 elimination per day is 365 subtractions per year. That is 365 sources of friction removed from your life. The cumulative weight loss is staggering. The third line, the reflection, takes 10 seconds and does something that no productivity system accounts for. It trains your brain to notice what is working. Most people's internal feedback loop is entirely negative. They notice every failure, every mistake, every unfinished task. The one-sentence reflection forces a daily positive scan. What went right today? What worked? What am I doing well? That scan counterbalances the negativity bias that makes most people feel like they are failing even when they are not. 3 lines, 30 seconds, every night, and within 2 weeks, you will notice that your mornings are faster, your weeks are lighter, and your internal dialogue has shifted from deficit to competence. I want to give you a specific detail about why paper matters for this habit and not a phone. When you write by hand, you activate different neural pathways than when you type or tap. Research has shown that handwriting engages the reticular activating system, which filters the information your brain pays attention to and flags what you write as important. Typing does not produce the same effect. When you write your priority on paper, your brain treats it with a level of seriousness that a typed note does not receive. That is why the nightly 3 on paper produces better execution than the same 3 items in an app. The medium is part of the mechanism. There is another benefit of paper that nobody talks about. Paper does not have notifications. It does not have other apps competing for your attention. When you open a notebook, the only thing staring back at you is the page. When you open your phone to write in a notes app, the only thing standing between you and a 30-minute scroll through social media is a single thumb swipe. The notebook removes that temptation entirely. It is a distraction-free capture device, and in a world engineered to steal your attention, a distraction-free tool is a luxury most people do not realize they need. Habit 2. The one-touch rule. When you pick something up, it goes to its final destination, not to a temporary spot, not to a pile, not to a surface where it waits for later. It goes home. Keys go in the bowl, jacket goes on the hanger, mail gets processed immediately, trash in trash, bills in bills, important documents filed. Dishes go in the dishwasher, not the sink. Shoes go on the rack, not the floor. This sounds absurdly simple because it is. The genius is in the simplicity. Every time you set something down temporarily, you create an open loop, a tiny signal in your subconscious that something is unfinished. Research has shown that visual clutter competes for neural representation in your brain, reducing your ability to focus. Every misplaced object is not just an eyesore, it is an active cognitive drain, and those drains accumulate. 14 misplaced objects scattered around your apartment and your subconscious is running a background program that says this space is out of control, things are undone, something is wrong. That program eats energy you do not even realize you are losing. The one-touch rule eliminates open loops at the source. 4 seconds of effort now saves hours of mental drag later. And the compound effect is where it gets interesting. After 3 weeks of one touch, I noticed the habit was transferring to other domains. I was applying it to emails, Reddit, respond, archive, done. To conversations, someone asks a question, I answer it or commit to a time when I will. No mental note, no lingering open loop. To decisions, choose, commit, move on. The one-touch rule is not about jackets and dishes. It is about training your nervous system to close loops the moment they open. That training changes how your brain processes everything. Let me give you a practical framework for implementing the one-touch rule, because most people fail not because the concept is hard, but because the infrastructure is missing. The one-touch rule only works if everything has a home. If your keys do not have a designated spot, you cannot one-touch them to it. If your mail does not have a processing station, you cannot one-touch it through the system. So before you start the one-touch rule, spend 30 minutes one time creating default stations. Walk through your home and assign a specific permanent location to every category of object you handle daily. Keys, wallet, phone, bag, jacket, shoes, mail, papers, water bottle, charger, headphones. Each one gets a specific spot, not a general area, a specific spot. Write them down if you need to. Then enforce the one-touch rule against those stations. The combination of default stations plus one touch is what produces the automatic behavior. Neither one works without the other. Habit 3. The 15-minute evening reset. Every night, set a timer for 15 minutes and walk through your space, returning everything to its starting position. Kitchen counter wiped. Living room cleared, desk reset, bathroom surfaces clean, clothes either hung up or in the hamper, nothing left out. If you are practicing the one-touch rule during the day, this reset takes closer to 5 minutes because there is almost nothing to reset. The 15-minute timer is a ceiling, not a target. And the reason this habit is so powerful is not about cleanliness. It is about what happens the next morning. Your environment in the morning sets the emotional baseline for the entire day. When you wake up and walk into a clean kitchen, your brain receives a signal of control and competence. When you wake up and walk into last night's dishes, your brain receives a signal of deficit before the day has even started. That signal is subtle, but research in environmental psychology has confirmed it repeatedly. Physical environment shapes behavior and emotional state more reliably than willpower. The evening reset ensures that every morning begins at zero, not at deficit, at zero, and from zero, everything you do is forward progress. You never start the day digging out of yesterday's mess because yesterday's mess was resolved before you went to sleep. The most organized people I know do not start their days getting organized. They start their days already organized because they ended the previous day that way. I want to share something personal about this habit that I did not expect. When I started the evening reset, my sleep improved within the first week. Not because of any relaxation technique, because the physical act of resetting my space became a shutdown ritual for my nervous system. When the kitchen is clean, and the desk is clear, and the living room is returned to its starting position, my brain registers that the day is resolved. There are no visual cues of incompleteness, no open loops staring at me from the counter, and that resolution gives my subconscious permission to stop scanning, stop checking, stop running the background program that says something is undone. The evening reset is not just a cleaning habit, it is a sleep protocol disguised as housework. And the quality of rest it produces compounds into better cognitive performance the next morning, which makes the launch into the day smoother, which makes the one-touch rule easier to maintain, which means the evening reset takes even less time. The cycle feeds itself. Each habit amplifies every other habit. Habit 4, the decision batch. This is the habit that saves the most cognitive energy, and almost nobody practices it. Instead of making decisions throughout the day as they arise, you batch similar decisions into a single window and process them all at once. Here is what this looks like in practice. Instead of deciding what to eat 3 times a day, you decide what to eat for the entire week on Sunday. 15 minutes, 7 days of meals planned. Every decision about food for the rest of the week is already made. Instead of deciding what to wear each morning, you set out the next day's outfit each evening during your reset. Instead of processing email continuously throughout the day, you process it twice, once at 10 a.m. and once at 3 p.m., 20 minutes each session. Every email gets one of 4 actions. Reply if it takes less than 2 minutes, schedule if it needs thought, delegate if someone else should handle it, delete if it does not require action. The reason batching works is because of how context switching operates in the brain. Every time you shift between tasks, your brain needs roughly 23 minutes to fully re-engage with the previous task. Every time you check email between work tasks, you are not losing 5 seconds. You are losing 23 minutes of recovery time. Batch your decisions and you eliminate dozens of context switches per day. That recovery time gets redirected to actual work, actual thinking, actual living. Let me give you a specific batching schedule that I use because the framework is useless without the details. Sunday evening, meal plan for the week, 15 minutes. Each evening during the reset, set out tomorrow's outfit, 30 seconds. 10 a.m. and 3 p.m., email processing, 20 minutes each. Saturday morning, errands batched into one trip instead of scattered across the week. 90 minutes instead of 5 separate 30-minute trips. First Sunday of the month, review all subscriptions and recurring commitments. Cancel anything that no longer serves me, 10 minutes. That batching schedule eliminates roughly 40 discrete decisions per day. 40 decisions that used to consume cognitive energy scattered throughout the day now happen in concentrated, efficient windows. The energy savings are not theoretical. They are measurable in the quality of my afternoon focus, which used to collapse by 2 p.m. and now holds until 5. There is one batch I want to highlight because it saved more time than any other single change: grocery batching. Before decision batching, I went to the grocery store 3 or 4 times per week, each trip taking 30 minutes including travel. That is 2 hours per week on groceries alone. After implementing the meal plan batch on Sunday evening, I go once per week for 60 minutes. That is a net savings of 60 minutes per week, or 52 hours per year, from groceries alone. Batching is not a marginal improvement. It is a structural redesign that reclaims entire categories of wasted time. I want to pause here because these first 4 habits share something in common. They all require a certain baseline of mental clarity to implement consistently. If your brain is running at full noise, if anxiety is the background soundtrack of your life, if you cannot sit still for 5 minutes without reaching for your phone, even these simple habits will feel like too much. That is why the K.M.A. method exists. 5 minutes a day, a structured mental control protocol that gives the noise a container so it stops flooding everything you try to build. I run it every evening right before the nightly 3. It is the clearing that makes the planning possible. Point your camera at the QR code on screen or tap the link in the description. 5 minutes a day for mental control and inner calm. Now let me give you the next 6 habits. Habit 5. The Sunday Terrain Map. Every Sunday at a fixed time, spend 15 minutes mapping the coming week. Not planning every hour, mapping the terrain. Layer 1. Non-negotiable commitments with fixed times, meetings, appointments, deadlines. Layer 2. Your top 2 priorities for the week. The things that, if accomplished, would make the week successful regardless of what else happened. Layer 3. Margin. At least 30% of your remaining time deliberately left empty. That empty space is not laziness. It is structural integrity. It is where reality goes. The meeting that runs long. The unexpected phone call, the sick day, the creative idea that needs space to breathe. Without margin, one disruption cascades into collapse. With margin, the system absorbs it. The Sunday map takes 15 minutes and it transforms the week from an unknown, vaguely threatening mass of obligations into a known landscape. And that visibility reduces anxiety more effectively than any app, because anxiety is not about how much you have to do. Anxiety is about not knowing how much you have to do. The map eliminates the not knowing. There is one additional element of the Sunday terrain map that I want to highlight because it addresses the most common reason people abandon planning. Most planning systems are prescriptive. They tell you what to do every hour. And the first time reality deviates from the plan, the whole thing collapses. The terrain map is descriptive. It describes the landscape of your week without dictating every step. It shows you the mountains, the valleys, the obstacles, and the open spaces. And then it trusts you to navigate in real time. That trust matters, because you are not a robot executing a script. You are a human responding to a dynamic environment. The best navigators are not the ones with the most detailed maps. They are the ones who know the terrain well enough to adapt. After doing the terrain map for 4 weeks, I noticed something unexpected. My anxiety about Mondays disappeared. Not reduced, disappeared. Because Sunday evening was no longer a vague dread about the unknown week ahead. It was a clear landscape I had already surveyed. I knew where the hard days were. I knew where the margin was. I knew what mattered most. And that knowledge converted the week from a threat into a territory I had already mapped. The map did not change the week. It changed my relationship to the week. And that shift was worth more than any productivity technique I have ever learned. Habit 6. The Entry Protocol. This is the habit that prevents 80% of household clutter, and almost nobody has one. An entry protocol is a fixed sequence of actions you perform the moment you walk through your front door. Every time, without exception. Here is mine. Keys in the bowl. Bag on the hook, shoes on the rack, jacket on the hanger, pockets emptied, wallet, phone, and receipts go to their stations. Mail gets processed at the kitchen counter. 10 seconds, trash in trash, actionable items on the counter, everything else recycled. Total time, 90 seconds. 90 seconds. And the result is that nothing from the outside world enters my living space unprocessed. No pile of mail growing on the counter, no jackets draped on chairs, no bags dumped on the floor, no keys lost in couch cushions. The entry protocol is a filter. It catches everything at the door before it can contaminate the interior. And because it is a fixed sequence, it requires zero decision-making. You do not think about where to put the keys. You put them in the bowl. The way you do not think about closing the car door. You just close it. Automatic, effortless, invisible. Most people's homes get messy starting at the front door. They walk in carrying the day's cargo and distribute it randomly across surfaces. By the end of the week, every surface has a layer of accumulated entry debris. The entry protocol prevents that accumulation at the source. It is 90 seconds of prevention that eliminates hours of weekend cleanup. Habit 7. The 2-minute trigger. If a task takes less than 2 minutes, do it now. Do not write it down. Do not schedule it. Do not add it to any list. Do it. Immediately. Send the reply. Wipe the counter. File the document. Put away the dish. Schedule the appointment. Pay the bill. The logic is mathematical. The time it takes to capture, store, remember, and eventually execute a 2-minute task is greater than the time it takes to just do it right now. But the deeper reason is neurological. Every tiny undone task occupies a slot in your working memory. Your working memory holds roughly 4 to 7 items. If 3 slots are occupied by things like reply to Sarah, wipe counter, scheduled dentist, you have cut your available processing capacity by nearly half, for tasks that take less time to complete than it took to read this paragraph. I tracked this for 2 weeks. I counted every deferred 2-minute task. The average was 17 per day. 17 micro-commitments, each occupying a sliver of working memory, each creating a tiny background process, all of them collectively draining cognitive energy I could have used for real thinking. When I started the 2-minute trigger, the background noise dropped immediately. Not because I got more done, because I stopped carrying things that did not deserve to be carried. Habit 8. The Capsule Wardrobe. This habit sounds like it belongs on a fashion channel, not a personal development channel. It does not. It belongs here because getting dressed in the morning is one of the first decision chains of your day, and most people are wasting enormous cognitive energy on it without realizing. Here is the capsule approach. Take everything out of your closet. Everything. Then put back only the clothes you would wear tomorrow, if tomorrow were a completely normal day. For most people, this is 7 to 10 outfits that all work, that all fit, that all feel good. Everything else gets boxed, donated, or moved to a back section. The result is that getting dressed takes 30 seconds instead of 5 minutes. 0 evaluation, 0 decision-making. You open the closet, everything in there works, you grab something and go. That is 5 minutes saved times 365 days, which is over 30 hours per year. 30 hours of cognitive energy recovered from your closet. But the deeper benefit is what it does to your morning psychology. When every item in your closet is something you feel good in, getting dressed becomes a micro-confidence boost instead of a micro-stress event. You do not stand there scanning, rejecting, second-guessing. You grab and go with the quiet certainty that whatever you chose works. That certainty carries forward into the rest of the morning. Small wins compound. Habit 9. The Phone Fortress. Your phone is the single greatest threat to personal organization. Not because it is a bad tool, because it is the most sophisticated distraction machine ever engineered, and it lives in your pocket 24 hours a day. The Phone Fortress is a set of structural changes that convert your phone from a distraction factory into a productivity instrument. Step 1. Delete every app you have not opened in 30 days. Step 2. Move all social media apps off your home screen and into a folder at least 2 swipes deep. Step 3. Turn off every notification except calls and messages from real humans. Step 4. Set your home screen to 1 page with only production tools, calendar, notes, camera, and your task manager if you use one. Step 5. Charge your phone across the room from your bed, not on the nightstand. These changes take 10 minutes to implement. The effect is permanent, because every icon on your home screen is a tiny decision waiting to hijack your attention. Every notification is a context switch that costs 23 minutes of recovery time. Every app within thumb's reach is a friction-free escape from whatever you are supposed to be doing. The Phone Fortress increases friction on distraction and decreases friction on production. You are not changing your willpower, you are changing the physics of your most used device. The nightstand rule alone transformed my sleep. Before the Phone Fortress, I spent 30 to 60 minutes scrolling before bed, flooding my brain with stimulation at the exact moment it needed to be winding down. After moving the charger across the room, that habit died within 3 days. Not because I became more disciplined, because the friction of getting out of bed to grab the phone was higher than the impulse to scroll. Physics beat willpower. Every time. I want to add one more element to the Phone Fortress that most people miss. Your phone's default apps matter more than you think. Most phones come with the browser, email, and social media positioned as primary applications. These are consumption tools. They pull information toward you and demand reactive processing. Reorganize your home screen so the primary apps are creation tools. Your camera, your notes app, your calendar, your task manager. These are production tools. They push value outward. When you pick up your phone and the first thing your eyes see is a camera and a notebook instead of Instagram and email, the behavioral prompt is different. The phone stops being a device that sucks you in and starts being a device that helps you create. That repositioning is subtle, but the behavioral impact over weeks and months is significant. You check your phone the same number of times, but what you do each time shifts from consumption to production. Habit 10. The Weekly Audit. Every Sunday, immediately after the terrain map, spend 5 minutes asking one question about each area of your life. Is the system still working? Walk through your habits. Is the nightly 3 happening consistently? Is the one-touch rule holding? Is the evening reset running? Is the decision batch operating? Is the entry protocol firing? Is the 2-minute trigger active? Is the capsule wardrobe staying clean? Is the phone fortress intact? For any habit that has weakened, do not rebuild it. Make one small adjustment, one tweak. Not a redesign, a tweak. Maybe the evening reset moved from 9 p.m. to 10 p.m. and you are too tired by then. Tweak. Move it to 8:30. Maybe the decision batch for email slipped from twice a day to continuous checking. Tweak. Set 2 phone alarms for 10 a.m. and 3 p.m. as physical reminders. Maybe the entry protocol broke because you got a new bag and it does not fit on the hook. Tweak. Buy a bigger hook. The weekly audit is 5 minutes. But it is the 5 minutes that make the other 9 habits permanent instead of temporary. Because without auditing, every system slowly degrades. Entropy is the default state of the universe. Order requires maintenance. And the weekly audit is the minimum effective dose of maintenance that keeps the entire architecture standing. Let me give you a real example from my own weekly audit that shows why this habit matters. In week 6 of running these 10 habits, my audit revealed that the 2-minute trigger was failing every afternoon between 2 and 4 p.m. During that window, I was consistently deferring 2-minute tasks instead of doing them. When I investigated why, the answer was simple. That window was my lowest energy period of the day. My cognitive resources were depleted from the morning, and even 2-minute tasks felt like too much effort. The system was not broken. My expectation was unrealistic. The tweak was simple. I moved my second email batch to 2 p.m., right at the start of the low energy window. Processing email is low cognitive effort, and it gave me a structured activity during the dip. By 3 p.m., the batch was done, my energy was recovering, and the 2-minute trigger resumed naturally. That one 5-minute audit finding solved a daily failure pattern that would have slowly eroded the entire system if left unaddressed. The audit also surfaces something that no other habit does: patterns of improvement. When you review your system every week, you start to see trends. You notice that the entry protocol has been running perfectly for 3 weeks straight. That observation is not trivial. It is evidence of identity change. It is proof that you are becoming someone who automatically processes everything at the door, and that evidence builds the self-trust that makes every other habit more sustainable. Because self-trust is the real currency of organization. Not willpower, not discipline. The quiet confidence that when you commit to a behavior, you follow through. The weekly audit provides that evidence. Every week, in 5 minutes. Now here is what happens when all 10 habits are running simultaneously for 60 days. In the first week, everything feels manual. You are consciously reaching for the notebook, consciously returning items to stations, consciously batching decisions. It takes effort. It feels like adding work to your already full life. This is normal. Every habit is clunky before it is fluid. Stay with it. And let me set a realistic expectation here. You will not implement all 10 habits at once. That would be a total system approach, and total systems collapse under their own weight. Instead, implement them in pairs. Week 1, the nightly 3 and the 1-touch rule. Week 2, add the evening reset and the entry protocol. Week 3, add the decision batch and the Sunday terrain map. Week 4, add the 2-minute trigger and the capsule wardrobe. Week 5, add the phone fortress and the weekly audit. 2 habits per week for 5 weeks. Each pair has time to settle before the next pair arrives. By week 6, all 10 are running and the system has had time to integrate organically instead of being forced artificially. This staggered installation is how habits survive, not all at once, in layers, each layer supporting the next. In the second week, the speed increases. The nightly 3 drops from 2 minutes to 30 seconds because your brain anticipates the questions. The evening reset drops from 15 minutes to 5 because the 1-touch rule and entry protocol keep things cleaner throughout the day. The decision batch starts to feel natural. You stop reaching for email between tasks without deliberation. The habit is encoding. By the 3rd week, habits start going invisible. You put your keys in the bowl without thinking. You process mail at the door reflexively. You make the bed automatically. The decisions are gone. The behaviors remain. This is the transition from protocol to instinct, from conscious to automatic, from effortful to effortless. And effortless is the target state because effortless behaviors never require willpower, which means they never fail. By the end of the first month, the compound effect appears. You have written 30 nightly 3s, 30 mornings that started with a decided priority, 30 evenings that ended with a clean space, 30 days of the 2-minute trigger-clearing microtasks instead of storing them. You have done 4 Sunday terrain maps and 4 weekly audits. The system has self-corrected 4 times already. Friction points that would have killed a normal organizational attempt have been caught and fixed in 5-minute audit sessions. And here is the result that surprises everyone most. You have more time. Not because you are doing less. Because the 10 habits eliminated the hidden time sinks that were consuming hours every week without your awareness. The searching for lost items, 10 minutes per day gone. The deciding what to do next, 15 minutes per day gone. The recovering from distraction, 60+ minutes per day gone. The weekend cleaning marathon, 3 hours per week gone. The decision fatigue that made every afternoon sluggish, immeasurable hours of degraded performance gone. Those hours do not come back as productive time. They come back as freedom. Freedom to think. Freedom to create. Freedom to be present with people you care about instead of mentally managing a backlog of unresolved open loops. Freedom to actually live instead of constantly organizing a life that keeps falling apart because the architecture was missing. By the second month, the identity shift completes. You stop thinking of yourself as someone who is trying to be organized and start thinking of yourself as someone who is organized. That shift is not semantic. It is the most powerful behavioral change a human can undergo. Because once your identity updates, the habits are no longer behaviors you perform. They are behaviors that express who you are. Skipping the evening reset feels like leaving the house without shoes. Skipping the nightly 3 feels like going to bed without brushing your teeth. The discomfort of not doing the habit becomes greater than the effort of doing it. And at that point, the system is self-sustaining. It runs the way your heartbeat runs. You do not decide to pump blood. Your body just does it. You do not decide to put your keys in the bowl. Your body just does it. The organization is not something you manage anymore. It is something you are. And here is what nobody tells you about being in the top 1% of organized people. It is quiet. It is not a performance. Nobody claps. Nobody notices most of what you do differently. They just notice the results. They notice that your home is always clean when they visit. They notice that you never forget commitments. They notice that you seem calm when everyone else is scrambling. They notice that you have time for things that other people claim they do not have time for. And when they ask how, you realize the answer is disappointingly simple. 10 habits. None of them impressive. All of them consistent. That is the whole secret. Consistency in the boring stuff is the rarest competitive advantage in existence. Because almost nobody can sustain boring consistency. Everyone can sustain exciting intensity for a week. That is why gym memberships spike in January and crash by February. That is why planners sell in December and collect dust by March. Excitement is cheap, consistency is expensive, but these 10 habits reduce the cost of consistency to nearly zero by making the behaviors automatic. And automatic behaviors are indefinitely sustainable. That is the architecture. That is why it works when everything else failed, because everyone wants the dramatic transformation. Nobody wants the daily 30-second notebook entry. Nobody wants the 90-second entry protocol. Nobody wants the 5-minute weekly audit. But those are the things that work, and working is all that matters. Something I want to leave you with that goes deeper than habits. Everything I have given you today organizes the surface of your life. Your space, your mornings, your decisions, your phone, your week. But underneath that surface is the operating system of your mind, the noise, the anxiety. The chatter that starts before you open your eyes and does not stop until exhaustion shuts it down. If that noise is running, these 10 habits will erode, slowly, quietly, the way they always do when the foundation underneath them is unstable. The K.M.A. method is the foundation. 5 minutes a day. A structured protocol for mental control that gives your brain the silence it needs to actually run the systems you built. I use it every single evening before the nightly 3. It is the reason the habits hold. Point your camera at the QR code on screen right now or tap the link in the description. 5 minutes a day for mental control and inner calm. Try it for 1 week. If your evenings do not feel different, you lose nothing. If they do, you will understand why I call it the engine behind everything I teach. Tell me in the comments which habit you are starting with tonight. Not tomorrow, tonight. Which of the 10 resonated the most? Which one made you think, I have never done that but it makes complete sense? Name it. Because when you name your starting point, you commit differently. And when someone else reads your comment and sees the same starting point, something shifts for both of you. That is how this channel works. We do not perform organization for an audience. We build it in silence, together. Share this video with someone who thinks the problem is them. It is not them. It is the absence of these 10 habits. Subscribe if you have not. I will see you in the next one.